Right now, we have got exclusive polling conducted after Jeremy Hunt's budget. OK, so this is finally now a big exclusive for you. Here are the results, all right? Are we heading for a Labour landslide? Sir Keir Starmer's party are at 46% in voting intention. Conservatives on 18%. Reform are up to 13%. The Lib Dems on 10%. Crucially, under half of 2019 Tory voters plan to vote for them again at the next election. When asked, who do you trust more to cut taxes? 15% said Jeremy Hunt. 17% said Rachel Reeves, but a whopping 44% said neither. I'd say the electorate are pretty much on the money there. OK. Next, who do you trust more to strengthen the economy over the long term? It's a big one, this. A Conservative government with Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, 16%. A Labour government with Chancellor Rachel Reeves, 26%. None of the above, though, 35%. Tell you what, none of the above's doing well tonight. And finally, we can see that Brits are fast running out of patience. 37% want a general election as soon as possible. OK, so that's before May this year. So literally, like now, really. People want a general election now. 37% of people. The next most popular answer was autumn this year, chosen by 16%. 30% of people remain undecided. I do beg the question how you can be undecided to when you want a general election. But anyway, expert pollster and academic Matt Goodwin joins me now. Matt, look, thank you very, very much. What are the key findings of that series of polls
Patrick,
there?
good to be with you.
Right,
well, the key findings, as you say, I mean, we've got this enormous disillusionment out there in the country. It's not that there's mass enthusiasm for the Labour Party, Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer. What we've got are lots of voters out there saying, look, I don't know who's going to fix this economy. I don't know who's going to reduce taxes. And I think this is really hinting at something bigger, Patrick. I think there's quite a lot of disillusionment out there with this new consensus in British politics. High tax, big state, mass immigration, low growth. And voters, I think, are looking at Westminster and saying nobody's got the answer.
More people think that Rachel Reeves is likely to cut tax than Jeremy Hunt. I mean, that is remarkable. What a state of affairs we are in at the moment, surely.
Well, indeed, but it also shows just how hemmed in the two parties are. I mean, they don't have much room for manoeuvre. We've got massive amounts of national debt. We're now in recession. We've got very low rates of growth. Voters aren't stupid. I think they're looking at the reality and they're saying, look, actually, I don't think the Conservatives, who have already brought us, don't forget, to the highest tax burden for decades, are going to sort of bring about some sort of miraculous recovery. And so, you know, Labour's partly picking up a bit of the advantage on that. Notice on that question about economic growth, though, Patrick, Labour's lead is bigger on that question. And this is what we see in other polls nationally. Labour ahead of the Conservatives on managing the economy, dealing with unemployment, dealing with inequality. And this, again, is a reflection not of the fact that people love Keir Starmer, because, to be honest, they don't. It's a reflection of the way in which they are completely fed up with the incumbent Conservative government.
You asked them about voting intention there, and it was at 47% for Labour. 47%. Big.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is reflected in other polling. The Labour Party is enjoying leads it's not really had since the 1990s. We've got the Conservatives on 18% this week. YouGov just had them on 20%. We're seeing lows that we've never really seen before. The old joke among pollsters, Patrick, was that the Conservative vote would never go below 30%, because that's when you're getting to pensioners and people in care homes who are pro-Conservative but don't really know much about what's going on out there in the country. And what we're seeing instead is actually this Conservative vote doesn't appear to have a floor to it, Patrick. Yeah. Sliding downwards.
I mean, so it does indicate, does it indicate that the Tories have lost the pensioners?
Well, I mean, they've lost almost all of their core voters. When you're on 18-20%, you're pretty much losing, you know, the vast majority of people who voted for you at the last election, those working class voters in the red wall. Patrick, on these numbers, every seat in the red wall goes back to the Labour Party. On these numbers, the Conservatives are reduced to less than 100 seats, or fewer than 100 seats in the House of Commons. This would be, you know, a wipeout event. Now, of course, the polls will narrow as we go into the election, right? We will see the polls narrow a bit. But, you know, you've got to ask yourself a question. If the Conservatives aren't seen as a competent manager of the economy, if they're not seen as a competent manager of immigration, if they're not seen as a competent manager of the NHS, all the big issues in British politics, then why will voters go back to them? And I think that's the nightmare question for Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because it's I don't think people... Well, I could be wrong about this, but my impression is I don't think people necessarily think that the Labour Party are going to be massively competent at this stuff. The question is, are they going to be more competent than the Tories? And then we end up in this situation. Matt, can I just say a massive thank you, not just for all that data, but for coming on at this time of night and picking through it. I know our viewers and listeners really appreciate it. So it's Matt Goodwin there.
Thanks,
Thank you very, very much. Professor Matt Goodwin.